For a lot of artists, creating music brings a lot of joy. Creating, recording in the studio, playing live shows, 90% of the time, I know I just love it. And that's when I'm hearing a new mix or when a lyric comes together. It's like just the most rewarding process for most of us. But let's be honest, there's many times when it becomes an endless cycle of disappointment and frustration. And trust me, I get it. When you start to take music more seriously, going from a hobby, just having fun with it, to making it a career, can be a bit of a tough jump. And I've seen a lot of artists and producers that are quitting after putting a lot of years in of work. Some are just selling their catalogs and forgetting it. Some are giving up before they've had success, and they're letting these songs and beats just go to the graveyard on their hard drives, never to be heard again. And before you think about quitting, I want to give you some really encouraging advice to stay motivated, especially when you feel like you're uploading song after song and you're not even cracking 1,000 streams or even 100,000 streams. And this honestly reminds me of me when I was still starting and constantly refreshing the page to see if there's any change, or checking social media on the likes. Is anybody responding to this? And, for some artists, we want to blame Spotify. We want to blame the algorithm. We start complaining. We start comparing ourselves to so-called less talented artists that are doing better than us. I have done that before. And that's where I want you to be careful, because I've really seen two types of people on the internet and even in the comments, where there's some that have a real positive outlook while they're chasing their dream, and they seem to just enjoy the journey more, and others that are more skeptical, they're negative, they're angry, and they're always looking for someone to blame, as opposed to taking the responsibility of themselves and say, okay, yeah, this other artist, they might not be as talented as me in my eyes, but they're doing something right, and what is that thing that they're doing right? And what can I do to be more positive? And one thing I'd really encourage you is watch out what circles you're running in, and who's encouraging you and who's inspiring you, and what you're listening to. Are you hanging out with people who always look at the glass half full or half empty? And this is where I think it's really important to have success stories of other artists, and not just hearing their success, but knowing their struggle. Like, I look at Nickelback, who's got a documentary out right now, and I didn't realize how much money they borrowed from friends and family and had to pay it back. I didn't know they had gotten signed to a record label. I think it was Roadrunner, which was more of a heavy metal band, and their first record flopped. And they were talking about how if they had signed to a major, they would have been dropped. But the label was like, yo, we need to get our money back, dude. So you got to put out a second record. You know what I mean? Because we want to make our investment back. And sometimes a lot of labels know this, that it's not always the first record. It's the second record. And it certainly was for Nickelback, who definitely took off. And they come from a rural part of Canada, right? And it's so easy to say, oh, well, we know how their story finishes. You know what I mean? It ends up great. But what about my story? Well, I want to encourage you that your story is not done yet, because you're still watching this video. Hopefully you're still writing songs. You're still writing your story as well. I look at Eminem, who grew up in a really rough side of Michigan, in Detroit. You know what I mean? Went through crazy turbulent stuff, bullied, picked on, which I can really relate to. I look at Shania Twain, who's super successful, and I almost forget all the hits that Shania Twain wrote, but she lost both of her parents, okay, grew up in poverty, and had to raise her siblings while chasing her dream. I look at my story, where I lost my dad to suicide when I was 5 years old. So I didn't have a father, but I didn't have to raise two kids. Someone I really like their music a lot right now too is Jelly Roll. And his story is crazy. If you've seen his documentary, I think it's on Hulu, but dude went to jail for years. Was massively overweight. Had a lot of different things, drug problems, addictions, a lot of crazy stuff going on in the dude's life. Yet he still pushed through and found success. And I don't think these are just oddities. I think these are people who have that no plan B mindset, that are just I'm all in. It's either this works or it doesn't. They really put themselves in a no compromise situation, and they don't quit. Proverbs 24:16 says, even though a righteous man falls down 7 times, he gets up and goes again. And then when you fall down again, you get up and go again. You know that there is no turning back. You can't give up. You've got to trust God. You've come too far to quit now. And what I like to say to people is, when you're about to give up, remember why you first started. Nelson Mandela says it always seems impossible until it's done. Another great movie you should watch is Babe Ruth, the baseball story, right? It's hard to beat a person who never gives up. Michael Jordan says, I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over again in my life, but that's why I succeed. Oh my goodness, is that not inspiring or what? Will Smith says there's no reason to have a plan B because it distracts from plan A. Plan B means full commitment, right? Dwayne The Rock Johnson says, in my world, there's no plan B. I go all in on plan A. That's how you achieve greatness. So I encourage you guys, go all in on this dream. We've got some new merch collection that we dropped called the No Plan B collection. I'll put links below. Of course, I've got books, audiobooks, ebooks, trainings, all that stuff. I'll put the links below, but don't give up on your dream. Instead, I want you to do an audit of your music career. I want you to look at all the songs that you've released and ask yourself, is this the best I can do? Can I do better? Could I do better making them? Could I do better marketing them? Look at the last 10 to 20 songs. Do they all sound the same? Is there anything that you could do differently, right? Because if we keep doing the same thing over and over again and we're expecting a different result, that they call that insanity, right? And so you want to say, did you work with the same producer? Work with new people. Try new things. Do you have the same singer, the same rapper, the same whoever, same guitarist? Are you working with new people, and are you stretching for greatness? And can you even go back to some of those songs and be like, man, instead of even writing new ones, fix these ones up, make them better because they're like maybe this close to a hit, right? Bring somebody else in on it, get a featured vocalist, and re-release that thing and blow it up. And don't think that, it's already out there. Oh, who's heard it? You and your friends and family? Like, even if I had 1 million streams on a song, there are hundreds of millions of people out there that haven't heard of it, right? Like, we think, we're known for this or we're known for that. It's like, dude, nobody knows you. Nobody knows me. You know what I mean? There's so much more opportunity. And so I want to challenge you to go back and look at your stuff. Do an audit of your music business, your career. What can you do better? What can you do differently? And it's not about doing a whole bunch more. It's just one hit song. One hit song changer to your life. Like, I look at some of these songs, like even in my catalog, like it's the 80-20 rule. We've done hundreds of songs, but the majority of the streams are coming from the 20%, right? It's even just like that with the work that we do. It's like out of the 100% effort that we put in, 20% of it gets us 80% of the results. So if I look at my DistroKid account or all my sales, my streams, my royalties, out of all the songs, the majority of the royalties are coming from the 20%. So why don't we find that 20% in your career that's working, and let's focus on that and blow that up even more.